Hello, my name is Dr. Carl Candlepun, and this is the 7th official episode of my Lost podcast. As such, this episode discusses Season 1, Episode 7, The Moth. It features no spoilers beyond this point in the series. However, if you've not seen at least that far into the show, I highly encourage you to do so first before proceeding with this podcast. But without further ado, let's begin. Hello, and welcome to Dr. Candlepun's Lost podcast. I am Christopher Huth, otherwise known as Dr. Candlepun, and with me...
I am Mike, also known as Research Assistant Flickerson.
And today we are talking about Season 1, Episode 7, The Moth. So I think we're going to do things a little bit differently today because last week we had quite a few Reddit comments that we addressed in our fan message section. But what I felt we kind of by we I mean me. What I feel I kind of messed up with that last time was we kind of already talked about a bunch of the things that people commented about. So by the time we got to their comments, we had kind of already said everything that we had to say about those things, so it kind of felt lackluster. So because of that, I want to take the one Reddit comment that we have today, and I want to address that up front, and then I think that'll kind of lead into our discussing the episode. Yeah. So, with that said, this comment comes from Runnin' Reed, who says, I remember loving this episode when it first came out. I loved the symbolism of the moth's need for struggle, how it was the struggle itself that gave it strength. I was inspired by that. I've now watched Lost 4 times, and this episode has lost its luster for me. Firstly, the symbolism is clunky and forced. I've learned more since then about what good writing really is. Secondly, the episode itself is thin. Of course Charlie is going to be the hero. The guy is down on his luck, and the writers artificially created a far too specific scenario where only Charlie could succeed. Cringy. As far as Locke's ask 3 times policy, I think that is awesome, super effective, even now. Okay, so I definitely have parts of that I agree with, and parts that I'd like to kind of push back on in a way. But do you agree with that, or what was your opinion of the episode overall?
He just ruined my life.
This is my favorite episode.
You know what's so funny about it is, first off, I love everything about that because it lets me know that I have not learned anything about writing. I'm still right where he was. Like I really, first off, let me go back to like 20 years ago. Like I didn't remember anything about this episode. Clearly, it was Charlie's big, reveal, if you will. I didn't remember anything about it, but when Locke talked about the moth, like going right back to what he was saying, it's like, oh man, I forgot about that, but I love that. I really, really love what he's doing there. And for whatever reason, just as the episode goes, like he's in the cave with Jack, trying to rescue Jack, and sees the moth, and that's what leads him to that. And then later in the episode, he sees the moth again, and I completely appreciate what he's saying from like a maturation process, looking through it and going, it's getting kind of, it's clunky and what. But man, I loved it. I still loved it this time. And there was one of the the ask 3 times thing. Mm-hmm. Didn't remember how that worked out in Charlie's favor any more than I knew 20 years ago when I watched the episode for the first time. But I immediately loved it. I thought, oh yeah, okay, I kind of remember this. I don't remember how Charlie gets it right. But as he went and asked for it the 3rd time, I did get the feeling of like, oh yeah, I think he does something. I think he does something. And man, I love the episode for that. If there was nothing else about the episode, those 2 things, I love that he hit on them, even though he's changed his thought process over there. Love it though. Those 2 things got me good.
Gotcha. So it's funny because it's in a way I've had a similar experience to what Runnin' Reed said there. I think the first probably a few times. From my vague recollection of it, I think I felt very much the same. I think as the years have gone on, this one does hit a little less hard for me than, say, like last week's episode, which I kind of talked about is one of my favorites in these early sets. Like, in some ways, last week's episode hits harder for me now than it did when I was younger. And this one, I feel like it's a little bit the other way around. But the funny thing is because I had their comment, they commented that yesterday, and then I watched the episode today in preparation for this. So I kind of watched it in a more like defensive of the episode perspective. And well, so first, I guess let me talk about why I think my theory on why it hits a little less hard for me than it used to. I feel like this one. Okay, so for example, last week's episode, Sun in the airport, like that scene hits hard for me because I can really empathize with her being in that position, her not knowing what the right thing to do is, her still having love for this man or for who he used to be, and you know, there's that being that sign that he's still in there. All of that still hits really hard for me. It is a bit harder, and I feel like the show doesn't do as good of a job putting you into Charlie's shoes in the moment that he starts taking heroin. I think if you're willing to put the effort in, like to actually really try and put yourself in his position and feel his pain, I do think it works, and I do think that it's well written. But I guess that's my point though, is I do feel like the show doesn't do as much to help you get there as far as the empathy piece. For me,
I would. This is what I would say, and this is why I would say that's not the same for me.
Yeah.
In that scene, number one, the lead up of here he is, you know, in the confessional, he knows the right thing to do. He's just getting out of the band, and then he comes out, and here's his big brother, you know, saying, "Hey, we got this deal. Like it's nothing without you. We got nothing."
Yeah.
And he talks him into it, and they make that gentleman's agreement that, hey, fine, but if it gets crazy, if it's out of control, I'm pulling the plug. We walk. Big brother agrees. It's clearly wild. It's been wild for a minute. Like the scene where they're on stage and he starts singing Charlie's part.
Yeah. And
Charlie's kind of looking at him like, whoa, I mean, this is my thing, you know. I literally put myself in Charlie's spot with your dad going, man, how would that make me feel? Like, yeah, like, man, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's this reality. If me and your dad were in a band together, like the argument is like, well, who needs who, right? Yeah. And so then you fast forward, you know, your dad's out of control. I'm coming in there trying to pull us out of that. And he hits me with the, like, what, like, they're not here for you.
Yeah.
Like, they're not, like, it doesn't even matter. Yeah. And if you do, what are you ever going to be? Right. Like, this is all you are. Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, my gosh, if my brother ever, you know, ever made me even feel like that much toward that, like, you know, I don't want heroin, but if it's sitting there, I need something to take the edge off of that.
Yeah. No, that's all a good point. Because, I mean, so the interesting thing that you said there that made me, I didn't even think about this until you were saying that, is I don't have an older brother. Yeah. I have a younger brother. I have a younger sister.
You're the villain in this.
Yeah, yeah. I empathize.
Get Brandon on the horn.
I empathize with Liam. Yeah, I mean, so that is funny. It's like what I was saying about last week's episode and that scene with Sun. I think the reason I've come to appreciate it as I've gotten older is I've had more life experience that I can kind of put myself in Sun's shoes because of that life experience.
Yes.
But because I haven't had an older brother, I mean, I feel like I can potentially imagine situations like that where a family member, like somebody older, you know, we're in a situation and they make me feel little. I mean, I've everybody's got their own set of insecurities. Yeah, I can sympathize with him.
I think that only works though, right? If there's that, and I speak about your dad, that mad amount of respect, right? It couldn't work with every younger brother, older brother, or older sibling, younger sibling. Like, it can't. There has to be a certain level of respect and expectation and agreeance and all that stuff before it could hurt that bad, right? And again, for me, I'm still not getting hooked on narcotics, but you know, when I had a lukewarm wine cooler after that event, you know, something.
Well, I mean, but I mean, you also made the good point of like it's literally like it's the worst thing that could happen to Charlie as far as his self-worth, and it's the thing that's literally right there in front of him to relieve that pain in that moment. I think you make a really good point for like he caves. I'm sure in that moment he's not thinking like, well, this is going to be who I am now. He's thinking immediate thing.
Yes.
He's not really
his pain go away.
Yeah. And then of course it turns into that.
Every addict in the world could probably relate to that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it wasn't supposed to end this way. It was trying to take care of a problem there. Yeah. It became the problem.
What I really liked watching it this time again, because I feel like their comment kind of put me in this mode of like trying to watch it and appreciate it more. Because I think that's the thing. I think if somebody had commented about how much they loved the episode, I think I would have been coming into this podcast episode with a much different angle.
Yeah.
But because he was expressing a lot of things that I kind of felt to some degree, I was like, okay, well, what do I say in response to that instead of just agreeing with what they said? Basically watching it that way, I was like, yeah, I feel like watching it the first time. I don't know if I thought this back then, but I felt like if I watched it for the first time now, you know, at my age, I would have been like, okay, I see where they're going with this. He's going to get addicted to heroin because he gives into the temptation. But it starts with him talking about the temptations that come with this, and he's trying to resist it, and it was like, oh, okay, he's just going to go down this slope, and he's going to. But that's not really the way they go. It's not temptation that he's giving into when he becomes the addict or when he takes the drug for the first time. It's
brokenness.
He's devastated and he doesn't know what else to do, and that's the thing that's there. And I really like that because, well, that was something I was going to say a minute ago. I think one of the reasons this one hits a little less hard for me than some of the more recent ones we watched. The past several do a really good job of subverting your expectations, or you know, sometimes there's a big twist. And this one, I feel like it does that less so. Although, again, watching it from this perspective, I could kind of see how that's how they do it. You're expecting him to give in to temptation, and that's not actually what happens. But going back to their comment and what they're saying about the episode itself being thin, and of course Charlie's going to be the hero, the guy's down on his luck, and the writers artificially created a far too specific scenario where only Charlie could succeed. I don't know. I didn't think about it too deeply. I don't know if maybe I would have agreed with that before rewatching it this time or not. But watching it this time, I do think I disagree with that specific part because I don't think it's any more specific to Charlie than, say, the boar and Locke being the one that can hunt it down and knowing how to do that, or Jack being led to water. I mean, the idea of these episodes so far is this island. Well, and that's the thing. That's the way somebody like Locke is interpreting it, is that this island or fate or whatever you want to call it is presenting these people with these opportunities to overcome their baggage and, you know, prevail in these ways over their demons. So you could read that as this is another instance of that, and you could take the Locke angle of like, well, this is the island making this happen. You know, Charlie yells, "I'm a rock god," and then suddenly the rocks all fall down, and it's like, okay, so it's something manifesting itself there.
Yes.
I mean, the Saeed and Kate have that little discussion about, you know, what are the odds that we survived this? And Saeed's like, that doesn't just happen. And Kate says, some things just happen, no rhyme, no reason. So, I mean, I feel like things happen in our lives every day that we can either just say, well, yeah, I mean, we can either project meaning onto those things, or we can just be like, yeah, I mean, let's not read into it. And I feel like what happens with Charlie and what happens with the cave-in, I don't think that that's so unrealistic that you couldn't read it as, well, yeah, it's realistic that would happen. That they just move into these caves, they don't know how stable they are. I don't feel like it's that crazy that a cave-in could happen without reading in, you know, some bigger force at play there. So all of that to say, I on the one hand, I think that's part of the point, is that, oh, Charlie runs into this situation that, you know, that he can use to help overcome his demons. Also, I don't think it's so unrealistic that might happen in that situation. Also, you know, they say only Charlie could prevail. There are other people that could have fit in that whole. But he's the one that argues the case of like,
Yes.
you have this person, you have this
Yep.
person. So yeah, I don't know, and I kind of like the symbolism of the moth because this is another thing that never occurred to me until watching it this time. But did you kind of get the symbolism where he's breaking out of the cocoon,
Yes.
out of the cave?
Yeah.
Yeah, for some I don't.
Like the moth led him to his moth moment.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I've obviously always appreciated the symbolism of the moth and the struggle and all that. But I think this was the first time. It's definitely the first time in a while. Like maybe it's occurred to me at some point,
Yeah.
and I just don't remember. But first time in a while, at least, that it occurred to me that like, oh, he's literally struggling through the cocoon,
and he's gonna come out stronger.
Yeah. So it's like I could almost see how some people would find that a bit on the nose, but because it went over my head all these times, it's not too on the nose for me because I didn't even fucking notice it. So yeah,
and I certainly would never give myself credit for 20 years ago. I absolutely wouldn't. This time it didn't escape me because probably more than even 20 years ago, I just got I got by the whole moth thing. I thought, man, I love that.
Yeah.
And who knows what, whatever was going on in my life back then that I just was like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. Still like butterflies. But it hit me good.
Well, I mean, you say the thing about butterflies, and that reminds me, this was something, I think I saw this on Lostpedia today, but it was another thing that never occurred to me when watching this. So Locke talks about, butterflies get all the attention, but moths are more beautiful. They're stronger, faster, they spin better silk. You kind of get that Liam, his brother, is more of a butterfly, gets all the attention. And Charlie's the moth. Yeah,
just now got that.
Yeah, I like I said, I didn't even figure that out for myself today. I was looking on Lostpedia, and I saw that, and I was like, oh yeah.
I'm gonna call this the Boone effect. What's our guy's name?
Charlie.
No, they gave us the Reddit comment.
Oh, Run and Read, I believe. Let me get
everything he said. Especially about like Charlie. It's too on the nose. He's down on his luck or whatever. Well, what about Boone? They're doing nothing for Boone. It appears Boone is going to die unfulfilled. Like every opportunity he's had to do something right, he has messed it up royally. And even this, it's like he had one job for Saeed, and he so desperately wanted to be the hero in this other moment that he leaves the one thing that he could potentially do right for the first time he's been on the island in the hands of his worthless sister, who somehow the island didn't let, so mess it up.
That is a much harsher read on that whole thing than I have ever had. That's not to say I think it's a wrong read.
Yeah.
I've literally, it's funny because we've talked so much about Boone and that trait of his, and I've never really read into this as like, oh dude, come on. So yeah, I don't think you're right or wrong. It's just I never even thought about that. But I mean, it gives Shannon an opportunity to do something, and she does almost fuck it up.
I can't remember what she was talking about, but I know it had nothing to do with survival.
Something about some guy in Malibu.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he ain't showing up.
Well, so talking about what they were trying to do with locating the source of the signal. Did you remember Saeed getting attacked like that?
I did not.
So you don't have any thoughts on who that might have been?
I do think it's some other group.
Gotcha.
Well, it's either that or Sawyer.
Well, but Sawyer was supposed to be setting off. Remember? Kate leaves him with a bottle rocket, and we see the other one go off.
He might have set his off and ran with that stick.
It's pretty far.
It's a good thing I didn't write this. I feel like it's somebody who's already on the island.
Gotcha. We're basically at the end of my notes. I did have a little bit more on Charlie's insecurity in this one, which we kind of already talked about. Everybody's telling him, we don't need you right now. Like, and then when Sawyer's like, I'll go tell Kate, but you just go back to doing whatever it is you do around here. And then you kind of get why that's an insecurity for Charlie when you find out that his brother was like, what use are you if you're not in this band? Yeah, I don't really have anything new to say about that, I guess, other than I just liked how that unfolded. That you kind of already get a sense that he's insecure, but then you get the final piece of why that is. Yeah.
Yeah, I oddly enough, the whole Sawyer thing, I probably dismissed 20 years ago, and I dismissed it now because I've just got in my mind that like I like Sawyer slightly less than I like Boone, for different
Oh, really?
reasons. Yeah,
Because Boone, I thought, was your least favorite.
yeah, he really is, but I think it's because of his ineptness and his such a strong desire to be wanted, to want to be seen as something that he's not.
Yeah.
I don't like people like that. Like, you have your gift, you have your talent, like whatever that is, show the people that, and then your use will be known. Whereas Sawyer's just a conniving turd that brings all of his baggage to the island, and I think Kate nailed it on the head. I don't know exactly what she said, but later in the episode, when he's supposed to come and tell her about Jack, he just takes that insult, which was completely factual, and uses that as an excuse why he's not going to do what he was supposed to do. But then later, when it would hurt the most, oh, I didn't say that? Like, just what a sociopathic turd.
Well,
sorry, there's a lot to it. But I'll bounce forward back to Charlie, and then we can go everywhere with that. It hit me outside the cave when he wanted to go in there. And then he had to sell why he should be the one to go in there. He was the most expendable. So the sad reality is he hated the fact that essentially they were treating him like he was worthless, but to help, he had to prove that he was worthless. Like, if he died, it would mean the absolute least. And just what a I mean,
I never thought about it like that. Yeah, that's pretty deep stuff. Well, so going back to Sawyer, though, because I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't have that in my notes. The interesting thing is, Sawyer, at first when she kind of gives him that insult about, like, not helping other people, she's asking for the laptop battery, and then when she says, like, "Oh, I don't feel sorry for you, I pity you," and she's being, like, kind of mean.
Sure.
Not that it's undeserved, but she's being kind of mean, and then he ends up giving it to her.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is say please, and then he's genuinely going there with the intention to tell her what he's supposed to tell her, and it's only when she's like aggressively like oh, why do you think I'd be interested in anything you have to say? It's only when she goes that far that he's like, well, all right, yeah. So and then when he does tell her, like you said, when it hurts the most, like, she throws the bottle rocket and leaves, and you can see, like, he feels like kind of guilty about it. So I don't know that I agree with the sociopathic label.
Yeah, it's probably fair.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it is fucked up what he does, but it is interesting. It's funny watching it today. I thought I was like, man, like, Kate's kind of being wildly aggressive when he shows up in the jungle, like, because the last interaction they had, as far as I recall it, was he gives her the laptop, and yeah, he's like playful about it, but he ultimately gives it to her, which is what she was asking for. She doesn't ask for anything in return. And then the very next time that she sees him, she's immediately like, "Oh, what the fuck do you want?" And I was like, "Well, that's a little."
let me back off and label him differently. So I'll back off the sociopathic, because you're absolutely right. He does seem to have a tinge of something.
Yeah,
but he's the worst kind of manipulative. Like, even like in my mind, I'm trying to be Kate. In my mind, in that scenario, like, I'm expecting him to ask for some sexual favor to get that battery, right?
Yeah.
And then even though he doesn't, I'm like, if that dude gets to play that hand later, that's exactly what he's going to ask for. Like, he just the control for all the wrong reasons, type attitude. Yeah, oh man, he's a piece of work. I'd probably have him and Boone fight to the death, and then ceremoniously kill the one that's left.
Okay.
Yeah. That's just me.
Yeah.
I've never been on an island after a plane crash.
I feel like a lot of people don't mind Sawyer as much at this stage in the show. I could be way off on this. This is just my vague perspective, but like, I feel like people don't mind him as much as, say, Shannon or Boone, because at least you kind of find, like, his stuff funny in a way, like his little quips.
Yeah.
I think people enjoy Sawyer even though he's unlikable.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's because they're not stuck on an island with him.
Yeah. Right.
I was going to throw this out there just because, I mean, it answered some questions, but again, when the show goes full circle on the flashbacks, and Charlie, knocks on that door and hears his drugged out, sex craved band partner, older brother, dressed like he's trying to do a 50s plus Abercrombie and Fitch ad. And he's got a family, and he's got all of his crap together. And now Charlie's essentially presenting him with the same thing he presented him with all those years ago. Like, I need this. I need you to do this. And he's like, yeah, I'm good. And it just one more, one more like slap in the face. It's like you literally took him to the gates of hell. You walked him in holding his hand, and then you found a way to escape, leaving him there.
Yeah.
And when he makes his way back to you, you're like, yeah, I think hell's waiting. Everything's pretty good here. Got kids and a wife. Got these classes.
And like what Charlie says to him about like, you made me this way. Typically, I feel like you probably feel the same way. Like, okay, dude, like take responsibility for your choices.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, why the reason Charlie's there, like Liam has made Charlie feel as though this band is his whole identity. That he's nothing without this band, and now Liam has taken that from him, and he's not letting it. So I mean, in more ways than just the drugs, Liam has made Charlie what he is in that moment. It's rough.
Now I'm mad at Liam.
Yeah.
Now I want to see Liam on the island. Building the pit in my mind.
Well, so you know how I've been doing like I've done it like twice now, I think. The unfortunately deleted scenes. So I have a thing that was scripted that was deleted. I don't think it qualifies as unfortunately deleted because I don't think we needed it, but there was something scripted that was interesting that is still referenced in the episode. So you know when Charlie's stuck with Jack and Jack's asking how the withdrawal symptoms are, and he's saying, have you had any hallucinations? And Charlie says, well, apart from the conversation I had with you in the jungle about an hour ago, no, and they kind of laugh about it. You remember that?
You know what? For whatever reason, that was like mumbled, and I didn't hear what he said.
No, it is. Like, for the longest time, I didn't understand what he said. It wasn't until like I watched it with subtitles for the first time that I was like, oh, that's
what so I did not catch it until you just said that. Yeah. But I wish I had caught it because that would have made me laugh with him.
Yeah.
But now I'm also wondering did he actually have an hallucination where he talked to Jack in the jungle an hour?
Well, so it was scripted that he has a hallucination where he sees Jack, but Jack is dressed as Liam, and then like he starts like singing like the "You All Everybody" song or something like that, and
"You Are Everybody."
"You All Everybody" is the song.
Okay, yeah, that's what I said. What did I say?
Did you think they were saying "You Are Everybody"?
Probably. You don't want to hear my understanding of lyrics from the 70s and 80s.
Well,
thanks, internet.
I guess the idea was meant to be that like you're wondering if he's taking the heroin at that point, because he's hallucinating that. But then it's revealed in that conversation that oh no, it was a withdrawal hallucination. Again, I don't feel that adds anything. I don't think that it. I think it's perfectly fine that it was deleted. Versus some of the other things that I pointed out. I've been like, I wish that was in there.
I think that would almost been a very SNL skittish.
Well,
to see Jack dressed like Liam.
It would be weird. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it wouldn't have made me mad, but I agree. I don't think.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine
not seeing it.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine Matthew Fox like trying to sing that song and it's not
Matthew Fox?
Sorry, Matthew Fox is the actor that plays Jack.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to imagine that actor trying to do that without it being funny. Maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. But it does almost feel like it would be funny in a way that it probably wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
I
think you can. I'll give him credit. I think he can pull it off. I just think. I think that what we know about him.
Yeah.
Like if he was in a comedy movie and it was like I bet he could pull it off. But like if he did that, knowing what we know about Jack on this show at that moment, nothing against him, but I wouldn't have seen anything but humor in it.
And I think that maybe would have been a bit on the nose, like Ronan Reed said. I think the implication is there, and it's subtle enough for me at least, that Jack represents Charlie's brother. Like Jack's the one telling him like oh hey, don't need you right now, or hey, when he picks up the suitcase and dumps out, it's like he's kind of exasperated with him. Well, and when Charlie goes and yells at him right before the cave-in, he's saying, "Oh yeah, you're gonna look out for me, huh?" Like what his brother said to him. So Jack is the on-island present-day representation of Liam, and I feel like that scene that would have been a bit too on the nose for me. We get it. He's Liam.
You're leading us too far.
Yeah. I don't really know why I wanted to bring that up in the context of this. I do have something to say about it in my more spoilery commentary episode that I'll do. Um, but yeah, so I guess that's why it's in my notes. But yeah, I don't know.
I like it.
But okay, that's everything I have. Did you have anything else that we haven't? Because you brought up the Sawyer thing, so
Running Reed's got my mind reeling in this. I don't know. To me, I'm gonna say this, and maybe he's gonna be like, "That's what I'm saying." I don't. It's a nice, clean episode. Like it was just a nice, clean episode. So maybe it's just a different way of saying the same thing he's saying. Like it's.
What
not,
do you mean by nice, clean?
Well, it just like everything just kind of fit. Like it was from the front to the back. There wasn't so much like skipping around timelines, even the flashback. Just everything just kind of fit. I don't know.
It's like simple, but in a way that you liked. And
Yeah,
maybe he didn't.
Yeah. Like imagine if every episode up to that had been like mentally exhausting.
Sure.
You know, and then you get to this one, you're like, oh, okay, it's like a 30-second rest between rounds. Like this is all right. You know.
Well, and that may be part of why I've said it hits less hard for me than some of the other ones. The more I've watched the show, is for that reason, because I've rewatched the show, so I don't need as much of a recovery thing. And there, if there's less exciting, if there's less of a mind blowing reveal than say Son speaking English or Locke being in a wheelchair or even Jack's dad being dead, that wasn't as big, but
Boone being completely inept.
Yeah. Or Kate being the fugitive. What I'm saying is this one, like I said, there is a bit of subversion of expectations in as far as like how Charlie became the heroin addict, but it's by no means is it like shocking.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the more I've rewatched it, like the less that I have to be like this is the one where this thing happened. And maybe that's unfair to the episode. Like you were saying, not every episode has to be like that, and it's not an inherently bad or not good episode because it doesn't have that element.
I think you made the point, and I would give it to you and Run and Read. I think the more you watch it, and the more you maybe almost you come to expect it. It's almost like spoiled child. They do such a good job, as we've talked about before, at giving you like these mysteries that could last an entire 3-season series on some shows that you've watched, and they're giving you these things and they're answering them sometimes in the same episode, but usually they're not holding you out for that. So maybe you almost get spoiled and ungrateful, like when you see something a little more simple, right? It's early in the game, but the more you've seen this whole show and watched it over and over again, the easier it is, I think, to dismiss those ones like, oh yeah, I don't really learn anything in this one, or this isn't crazy, or I that's a whole other way of looking at it, considering I'm 20 years ago guy and right now guy and nothing in between. So yeah.
One thing that I really do like that we didn't talk about is Terry O'Quinn, who plays Locke. His performance in I don't have any complaints about any of the acting in this episode, but like when he's delivering that monologue about the Moth and then even just how he is in each of his scenes with Charlie, like those are some standout moments in this episode for me that like those alone I think make the episode worth watching. I think those are great scenes that even in isolation you could show to somebody and be like, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah. I agree. Locke is I don't know if he's like the modern day shaman of the island. I don't, but that dude is so locked in spiritually that be it right or wrong, he finds something prolific in everything that occurs around them, and it's almost like he's their spiritual guide, right? And he's just like, oh, you know what, Charlie needs to hear about a moth and go get trapped in a cave, and just finding kind of everybody's helping them see what he finds it so easy to see. Yeah, it's super cool. Like, yeah.
Well, it's so okay. So last night we screened the 6th episode, the one you and I talked about last week, and we had our discussion afterwards. And there's somebody who Locke is their favorite character, but so they're like two. This early in the show, there are always two different reads on Locke. There's what you just said, and then there's a more nefarious, sinister interpretation of him. And so this person whose favorite character is Locke, when Locke gets the heroin from Charlie, he was saying, I was kind of asking, like, do you think he just got rid of the drugs? And he was like, no, I think he's holding on to it. I was like, why do you think that? And he's like, well, because he could use that to manipulate Charlie in some way. And like, he's saying he's being helpful, but just enough to like get use out of people or to get them to see things his way and all this stuff. So I bring that up to say like, is there any part of you that thinks like maybe that's where he's coming from or where, maybe that'll gradually evolve into?
I'm not mad at that thought process.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought of it, but if I just go with that at face value, I could absolutely it'd be like a good conspiracy theory. Like there's not anything to prove it right, but there's enough information there that you might be interested in hearing a thought process. The only thing I would say is that generally for manipulation of that nature to work, it has to be a long game. You don't manipulate someone for a couple days in the wilderness and then be like, okay, well, I got what I needed. Like, A, what he needed, and B, unless the long game is now he'll be indebted to me because I helped him. Well, that's everybody you do anything nice for. I mean, like that
Sure.
It's more prolific in this moment, right? But then what? The people at the soup kitchen downtown, they're doing that because these homeless people are gonna, one day get rich and maybe hunt them down because they serve them soup. Like, I mean, that's a long game, but it can happen. but so I don't know.
It almost sounds like you're saying Charlie's not valuable enough to want.
Oh, he's completely worthless. No. It just, I don't know. It seems like if he were going to be truly manipulative, he wouldn't. He wouldn't give him the 3 ask rule, right? He just hang it over his head, like, hey, I know you're suffering. Why don't I look? I'll just give you the smallest dose. That would be manipulative.
Sure.
Keep him, better, but just high enough to keep coming back.
But I think the alternative type of manipulation that you hit on there for a second was that if it's a longer game, maybe he is genuinely helping Charlie by doing these things, but maybe he is looking for. What I'm trying to say is what you were saying there. I think was this guy's point.
Yeah.
The guy from last night. I think he is thinking that in the big picture he wants to get people to be on his side for whatever that means. I'm not, obviously I know, like I have a much better idea having seen and being able to remember the entirety of the show, which of those is more accurate, like whether or not that's right. I was just curious if you could, if you got that sense at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like maybe you don't.
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, I go back to the orange smile. Anything's possible. But now you're going to send me down this whole other road, like conversation with your brother. Because if
my brother,
my brother, sorry, this guy's your dad every time. So I had a conversation with him, and I'm not going to get into the whole detail of it, but just talking about in general, like everything we do has a bit of selfishness to it. And maybe you've had this discussion with him, right? And it's like, he was questioning me on things because I was like, oh, well, I would love to do this for people, and I think he asked me, if I remember correctly, like, well, why do you want to do that? I'm like, oh man, it just makes me happy. Like making people happy, helping people, like just makes me happy.
Yeah.
Like, so it's selfish. Like, yeah. Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I never looked at it that way. Now I can't look at it any other way.
Yeah.
Like I try to tell myself, because it's just like helping somebody anonymously, like truly anonymously. I don't need a TikTok video. I don't need anything. I don't ever need them to know it was me. Like that's like my dream help. Like yeah. I don't ever want anyone to know where it came from. That type of thing, right?
But
But I know. And yes, and so I go, well, that would be very unselfish. But then I'm like, well, no, but I got joy out of it. So it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's not the again, understanding the way we grew up, like and again, I'll go super deep, but like just telling my kids about the people that were in my life. And I say it like this: if I had a friend for a day, for a season, or for a lifetime, like as terrible as some of the things that happened to us growing up, like I have fond memories with people who I guarantee you they would not be able to pick me out of a crowd of two. Probably I never crossed their mind. and I'll think of something. I'll be like, oh, that at one time hanging out with that chick or that dude or like whatever. Like, man, that was awesome. That was an awesome day. I can literally have memories like that. And so, um, being grateful of that, that's where my desire, that's why I think I get joy from the idea of just trying to be the light in anyone's darkness if I have the opportunity, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, kind of deep, but.
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree with all that. But I mean, but tying that back into Locke, like you're saying that.
Well, thinking about that if there's a nefarious side of Locke, it could just be at its smallest seed, at its roots, this selfish desire of his to finally be seen as the person he always believed he was, even when he was confined to the wheelchair.
Sure.
Like no one will ever put me in my place again because my place is on the mountain, baby. You know. So yeah, I get very, very well him seeing what he always believed in himself come to fruition through having the ability to walk again and actually being able to live out these things that frankly he was half fantasizing about with his walkabout and, you know, being a woodsman and just different stuff like that. Now he's that because he has it. And so selfishly he might be wanting to be seen as like a spiritual version of Jack. Like, yeah. He can, the pretty doctor can lead the island. I'll be the reason we make it. It could definitely be that. Yeah. Who said that?
What?
Who started this conversation?
That was somebody from our first time viewers group discussion last night when we watched the 6th episode. His name's Drew.
Drew, thank you.
Yeah,
that was cool.
You definitely answered the question. You don't get the sense. You don't get the sense that he's getting, and that's all I was looking for. Because that's what I'm saying. Like watching the show with all the people that I've ever watched it with, like. It's just interesting. Like some people have that, which was I was much more with you first time I watched it. But yeah, a lot of times like, there are people that just do not like Locke right out of the gate, and then they don't. I think everybody, including you, are suspicious of him at first, but then once you get that flashback episode and you kind of come to understand him a bit more, that's kind of where people kind of diverge. Like some people hold on to like the suspicious way they felt about him to begin with, and then other people see him as much more of a hero. I don't know if that's the right word.
Well, for whatever it's worth, for the people that are holding on to the maybe the nefarious intent and all that stuff, I mean, there's nothing that's not fun about that, right? Like I mean, if that's kind of like your little side quest you're holding on to, like, nah, this guy's gonna really. I mean, that'd certainly be fun if everything he did, you were weighing against that, right? You were trying to look at it through those lenses. I haven't done it. I might start now. Again, thanks, Drew.
Well,
might give it a shot. Just see how it rides.
And I think there's an interesting middle ground where like perhaps, you know, the way that you're reading it is completely accurate. Like that is what he is right now, but it is worth keeping in mind that there is that other direction it could go. I mean, it can be a scary thing when somebody starts interpreting meaning onto things that they don't fully understand.
Sure. Yeah.
And then kind of insisting that other people see things the same way.
Very cult leader-ish.
Yeah. Well, all right. So I kind of liked how we did the fan message thing up front. I mean, it really kind of turned it. It kind of influenced the entire structure of how we talked about things. So I'm thinking that will probably be how we go from here on out. Maybe if there's a comment that doesn't have a lot to do with that specific episode, that maybe somebody's giving their thoughts more broadly, maybe we'll still save that for the end. But with that in mind, again, as I say every time, we really want you guys to be part of these conversations in any way, shape, or form that you feel like you have something to say, be it about the episode that we're going to talk about, be it about something that we've already said in a previous episode, be it about my annoying laugh, just whatever you want to comment about. Feel free to do that in the comment section of the video version of this, if that's how you're experiencing it. Or you can shoot an email to dr.candlepun@gmail.com. And yeah, you can do that in written form. You can send in an audio clip or a video clip. And yeah, I'm sure we can get that edited into the show if that's how you would like to be featured. But yeah, I think that's everything I've got. Next week, we will come back for episode 8, which is Confidence Man.
Hope to see you then.
I would now like to give a special thank you to the currently active donors. These include Candidate number 90, Ben Ward. Candidate number 108, Jeffrey Winslow. Candidate number 69, Brian Phillips. Candidate number 32, Chuck Boyd. And candidate number 341, Hans. If you too would like to become a candidate, you can do so for as little as $1. One-time or recurring donations can be set up on Ko-fi.com/Candlepun or Patreon.com/Candlepun. A donation of any amount will get you credited in this podcast and added to the candidate wall, which will be displayed in all video versions of the episodes of this podcast from that point forward, even once you're no longer donating. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the multiple people that have donated equipment and resources that are used in the production of this podcast. These include Mary Mullins, Brandon Huth, Charles Huth, William McMahon, and Charlene McMahon. Until next time, namaste and good luck.
I don't know that I agree with the sociopathic label.
Yeah, it's probably fair.
But
hey, you and your brother always tell me to use that word.
Did you call him my brother?
Oh, your dad.
To like this video, click the thumbs up. Or, if there has been an incursion by the hostiles, click the thumbs down. To leave feedback, enter a comment below. To be notified when more videos arrive, click the circle and then select the notification bell. To view previous content from this channel, click either of the two boxes.